Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird. Happy Friday and welcome to Wicca 303. Today we are talking about ancestors. Ancestor veneration, to one degree or another, is a core value within all pagan traditions. In Wicca and witchcraft more generally, that is no exception to the rule. Respecting your roots, and specifically the individuals who comprise those roots, it does not require that, all of those ancestors were up to snuff by modern standards, nor does it mean that we agree with or that we ourselves would do everything that our ancestors might have done in their day. The plain reality is that without all of our ancestors, we would never have received the gift of life. So whatever they did for good or for ill, that allowed for the fact of our existence. They survived, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for that alone. And this can be a difficult psychological hurdle for many people. And in our modern society, we're constantly bombarded with messages from people who are just hell-bent on passing judgment on the past and to those within that past, oftentimes while insisting that no one should be allowed to judge them, which is hypocritical to say the least. So we may need to teach ourselves to turn a deaf ear to the screeching of such people. And admittedly, that is not an easy task. We are surrounded by that poison, and it's difficult to prevent ourselves from being affected by it. It's an exercise of willpower for us, but also a willingness to stand firm in our own opinions. So it's just as well that the very study of witchcraft provides us plenty of opportunities to grow a backbone, because this is yet another area in our lives where that backbone is absolutely necessary. Now, the term ancestor can refer to people who are directly in our family lineage, but also to various people groups from which we descend, as well as spiritual ancestors, those whose ideas have helped form and shape us. Now, with Samhain right around the corner, the question of who our ancestors are and how we might show them proper respect is important to us. It's not out of the realm of possibility that on Samhain night we might receive a little visit from one of our ancestors who has yet to reincarnate. And in such an event, naturally, we want to be a good host. The classic dumb supper, which is, you have a place laid out on the table for visiting spirits, you and your family eat the meal in silence. That is a go-to tradition for many pagans. A variation on that would be to omit the silence part, to still have a place set for anyone from the spirit realm who might be visiting, have a place set for them at the table, but then make a point to converse about the events of the year and what's going on with the family, so that if you do have any ghostly relatives drift in, they can be updated about what's going on, and it helps maintain that connection. You can also visit the graves of relatives before Samhain and leave flowers and other offerings. That's always appropriate to do, and it lets them know that they are remembered and cherished. And while their relationship with their family has transformed since their physical death, the relationship itself has not been severed, and it can be a comfort to both the living and the dead to remember this. It's worthwhile to contemplate the traditions we were raised with and ask ourselves whether or not we have been good stewards of those traditions. Are we carrying on with them? Are we passing the good, the good ones, obviously. We don't want to pass down the bad stuff, but are we passing down the good things to the next generation? Because we are all links in the great chain of existence. And do we really have the right to ignore that reality and say, I'm just a special island of existence all by myself, nothing before me, nothing after me, I'm just here on my own? I mean, no, that's very silly. That does not meet up with the reality of what it means to be part of the human race. And I think that's something worth thinking about. Another way to honor our ancestors is by continuing to tell their stories. Family stories in particular are vital to pass down. It helps ground your children in a sense of their inherited identity. It gives them a sense of what kind of people they came from, and it provides them, with connection. When a person can reflect upon the various peoples who've come before them in their family, they start seeing similarities within themselves, and that can provide a steadying influence. A person can better understand their strengths and weaknesses, and they can learn from past experience to make good decisions for their future. Now, what about spiritual ancestors? This is a bit of a tricky wicket, because the more you read and study the history of religions and cultures and people groups, the more you perceive that it's pretty organic, the way belief systems evolve. And there's always a process of cross-pollination. We affect each other with what we think and what we do, and then it morphs into its own thing. And that's just the way that it goes. It's this constant organic creation. And who deserves credit for what and how honor can be shown, that can become very complicated and very overwhelming if we don't approach the matter with a spirit of reasonableness. To begin with, we can acknowledge that not only do we not know all the various people and thinkers who pioneered ideas and practices that we cherish today, it is impossible for us to be aware of them all. Not everyone who ultimately has an impact of that kind has that public of a profile. And consequently, I can't see anything wrong with rituals that offer general thankfulness to those who came and practiced before us, acknowledging that we don't know all their names and faces, we don't know what they contributed, but we still want to convey our gratitude, our honor, and respect for them just the same. Now, in the case of the people that we do know about, or in the case of the ancient peoples that we take inspirations and lessons from, this is an opportunity to be more specific. In ritual, we can spend time speaking or meditating upon the exact ideas that we've inherited and how we've seen the benefits of applying those ideas. We can give an offering to a specific individual who has been influential to us. We can ask for further guidance to carry on in their spirit. And one of the simplest ways to honor our spiritual ancestors is by frequently reading and meditating upon the lore that has survived the ages. Reading a story once, that's a fine thing, but we only get the full benefit from these stories if we take a deeper look and we consider the various perspectives and we allow the layers of meanings and lessons to actually affect us. This isn't an exercise in memorization. It is putting the values we claim to possess into actual action. Live the faith. That in and of itself honors the memory of our spiritual ancestors. If you're of an artistic bent, you can use your skills to create things that honor the ancestors, and not just items for the altar, although that's a worthy thing to do and very necessary, but also just pieces of art that are meant to be enjoyed. Using pagan iconography in everyday items, these small touches create an atmosphere that reminds us of who we are, but it also shows respect for the beauty of our pagan ancestors originally created. There's no reason why we can't borrow from their aesthetic and bring it into the living, breathing modern world. Perhaps the best way to honor our ancestors is by emulating their chief virtues: bravery, pursuit of excellence, reverence where reverence is due. There's no reasons why pagans shouldn't be able to hold their heads high. We are resurrecting honorable traditions that uplift people and benefit the human condition in general. We should never let the prejudice or the ignorance of others to make us feel ashamed. And if we want to honor our ancestors, the least we can do is not hide their good influence upon us. So now for our homework for October 6th through October 12th. First, make a list of the ancestors you want to give particular honor to this season and why. Second, begin planning your Samhain ritual. The sooner you decide how you're celebrating, the easier it will be for you to make the appropriate preparations for the occasion. And three, contemplate the kind of legacy you want to leave behind after this incarnation. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? So there's food for thought. In the meantime, comments, questions, concerns, complaints, leave them for me in the comments section below or shoot me off an email. It's brigantiablackbird@proton.com. Yeah, it's protonmail.com. There we go. But it is in the description box. So if you want to speak to me on more one-on-one terms, that's something you can do. But that will do it for now, and I will see you next week. Bye.